Hi, I'm Chef Annette Benson, and today we're going to cut out our gingerbread house. All right, now that we made the dough, which the dough is right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to cut out your gingerbread house. The one thing that you have to do is figure out where you're going to get a pattern or how you're going to make a pattern. I use the website Gingerbread House Exchange for a lot of my patterns. In fact, I think all of my patterns that I've accumulated over the years have come from there. And they have some really good patterns on there, and they keep improving the website also. Once you know what pattern you want, then you can print out that pattern. Then what I would recommend that you do is print it out on like cardstock type paper. Even if you just print it out and then copy it onto cardstock, the thing is that this cardstock type paper is going to be a lot more user friendly for a pattern than it would be to use just regular photocopy paper. So just keep that in mind. So I have all my tools here that I need, which is really not a lot. I have a paring knife, I have my bench scraper, I have a rolling pin, I have some flour, and then over here I also have sheet pans, and I have the parchment paper on the sheet pan. I would highly recommend that if you're going to do this at home, that you get some parchment paper to put on your baking sheets. It's going to make your life a lot easier trying to get the gingerbread pieces off of your sheet pans and also putting them onto the sheet pans, as you'll see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set these aside, and I'm going to create a little space here for me to be able to put some flour down. You want to put a fair amount of flour down, but you don't want it heaping with flour. So that's pretty good right there, just like that. And then what you're going to want to do is get some of this gingerbread. You don't want to be rolling out all of this gingerbread all at once. Okay, so I'm going to get a fair amount out, but you see I have the majority of it is still in your bowl. All right, knead this dough a little bit to make it a little bit easier to handle. And it's best if it was a little sticky at first, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your dough, once you roll it out, you're going to want to incorporate new dough into the old dough so that you can keep it fresh for a lot longer. You know, like it'll be usable for a lot longer if you do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that down there like that on the floured table. I'm going to roll it out. I always teach my students to roll from the middle out. That way you know that you're keeping a fairly even thickness on everything. And once this stops moving, you want to pick it up and you want to redistribute your flour, not necessarily put more flour down, but redistribute things. All right, and then roll it out a little bit more. You don't want it real thick, but you do want a little bit of thickness to it. All right, because The thinner you make this dough, then the more brittle your gingerbread pieces are going to be. But if you make it really, really thick, it's going to be hard to put that gingerbread house together. So you make it about 1/8 of an inch thick, I'm going to say. All right, once you have it to the point where you have it rolled out to where you want it, then what you're going to do is you're going to have your baking pan ready to go. Okay. Roll this out onto your rolling pin, and then just roll it right onto your sheet pan. All right. Just like that. Once I have my dough rolled out onto my sheet pan, then I'm going to start cutting pieces out of this. All right, and I want to start with some of the bigger pieces here. I'm going to stick a piece on here, and I'm going to cut that piece out. Whatever you cut out is the way that that piece is going to be. So the neater you can cut this out, the better off you're going to be. The more accurate you can cut this out, the better off you're going to be. It's going to save you a lot of headaches in the long run if you can keep that in mind. I'm going to keep a little bit of room for the pieces and try to cut as many pieces out as possible out of one piece of gingerbread, but if you can't get too many pieces out of it, it's okay. So I have 2 pieces cut out. I'm going to roll out a little bit more gingerbread, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add new gingerbread to this. So then I can get more gingerbread pieces cut out of this gingerbread. Because if I just go and keep using that old dough, it's going to get to the point where it's incorporating too much flour, and it's going to incorporate too much gluten into that, and then it's going to become brittle, and you won't be able to do anything with it. So need a little bit of new in with the old. I want to show you how to do the pieces with like windows in them. Make sure that you cut your windows out of your pattern before you start cutting them out of your dough. What you want to do is you want to cut your pattern first. Okay, and I'm going to keep this piece on here for a second. And I'm going to cut out the windows now before I bake this. Do not try to cut windows out after your gingerbread is all baked. All right, so cut them out before you bake the gingerbread. Again, this is going to bake the way that you have cut it. So if you cut your windows out now, then you won't have any problems. The windows will stay. All these little pieces need to be straight so that whenever it bakes, they're going to be straight. What we're going to do after we get all of this done, cut out, is stick it in the oven at 350 degrees. I'm going to speed this up a little bit for you, and then I'll show you what the end product is after it's done baking.